Welcome to the Fall Protection Inspection Coaching Module. Today we'll be discussing the importance of fall protection inspection and the procedures to do it properly. Why we inspect. Fall arrest systems are like links in a chain. They are only as strong as their weakest link. All aspects of the fall arrest system, such as your anchor point, hooks, lanyard, and harness, must be working perfectly in order to keep you safe. If any one of these components is faulty, you will not be safe in a fall. That's why it is essential to inspect our fall protection before every use. Remember, it is your last line of protection. A fall can subject your gear and body to thousands of pounds of force, so any minor damage could result in a system failure. We'll begin by checking the harness webbing. Begin by inspecting the webbing for cuts, burns, discoloration, dry rot, brittleness, melted fibers or heat damage, shiny or hard spots, kinks, frays, or worn areas. Then check the sewing for pulled, loose, broken, or damaged stitches. Check for paint, dirt, tape, mildew, mold, grease, or other foreign material and remove per the manufacturer's instructions. Check for a lack of stretch in the material or undue stretching. Check for thinning or uneven thickness of webbing material. Next is a harness hardware inspection. Check for signs of deterioration or excessive wear. Check for distortion of metal components such as twists, bends, or elongation. Inspect for any modifications by the user, for example, adding additional holes to the webbing or straps. Check for signs of rust, corrosion, cracking, or pitting. Check for broken or distorted grommets. Ensure there are no missing parts. Then check for rough or sharp edges. Check the tongue buckle to ensure it overlaps the buckle frame and moves freely in the socket. Ensure the roller of the tongue buckles turn freely. Inspect all springs for distortion and working condition. Check the manufacturer's tag is readable. Check the tag for date of manufacture and compare to stated service life. Most harnesses don't have an expiration date, but some do. Here is some common damage that puts a harness out of commission. Remember, if you see any of this damage, it puts the harness out of commission immediately. Damaged straps or webbing. Rusty metal of any kind. Unreadable or missing tags. Broken or stretched plastic. And broken stitching. We're going to begin by inspecting our harness. I usually like to have it hung up so we're able to see everything more clearly. And we're going to make sure that we're wearing the proper PPE, especially in this case, it's going to be gloves. So going to begin by inspecting the D-ring in the back here to make sure that it doesn't have any signs of rust or corrosion, any signs of bends, any signs that's been subjected to a fall. And then we're going to begin to inspect the webbing there to make sure there's no rips or nicks or cuts, as well as any plastic, that it's all intact and it's not ripped or deteriorating. We're then going to inspect the first side of the webbing and we're going to flip it around. I usually like to start at the top and work our way down. So I'm going to begin by checking all the webbing here, looking for any signs of damage. You may need to move around some of the padding to ensure that there's no damage behind it. Remember that the padding itself is not mostly the essential part. We're really looking for damage within the webbing that holds the harness together. So I'm going to begin moving down, moving some of the padding around. And then when it cuts to some of the buckles, I'm going to make sure that I'm looking behind them to make sure that there's no damage hiding behind here. I'm going to be checking the buckles for the chest strap to make sure that there's no rust inside and that they move and actuate properly. Checking the webbing behind the buckle on here as well. And then I'm going to make sure that these buckles snap together and that they release properly. Working our way down, I'm going to make sure that the straps down here are all intact, that any of the stitching anywhere on the harness is intact. And I'm checking leg straps for any signs of rust or any damage here. And of course, checking the other side. You want to make sure that none of the metal has any bits of rust on it at all. And now I'm going to start moving around and checking the other side here. Again, I'm looking behind the padding, checking behind here. Working our way down, checking this strap, flipping it over, checking the other side. At this point, I'm going to flip the harness around. All right, now that the harness is flipped around, we're going to check the other side. Again, starting at the D-ring for any signs of rust, corrosion, checking the webbing back here. Any signs of damage, checking this plastic here. Again, now I'm going to start repeating the process and making sure that I'm checking. I'm going to start with one side and then make sure that we complete the other. Checking again back here. Okay, you also want to make sure that you're checking these load impact indicators. These are stitching that will break in the event of a fall. You want to make sure that these are intact. If the harness is subjected to a fall, they'll break open and let you know that it was an impact happened. Any signs of impact will put the gear out of service. The last thing we're going to check is the tag. The tag in the harness is located inside one of these sleeves. So you're going to open it up. You're going to make sure that everything is readable. And usually the information that you're going to need, such as the serial number and date of manufacturer, is going to be on the second tag. And you're going to make sure that everything here is intact. There's no missing tags. And then we're going to move on to our SRL. Next, we'll check the yo-yo or SRL housing. Check the load impact indicator for signs of activation, signs that it's been subjected to a fall. Check that all fasteners and casing bolts are tight and in good condition. Check for signs of physical damage or missing parts. Inspect unit housing inside and out for deformations, discoloration, UV or sun damage, cracks, and signs of physical damage. Check for cracks or signs of wear. Inspect all connecting areas for signs of damage or deformations. Check metal components for signs of corrosion or rust. Then, gauge the overall deterioration of the unit. Check for any modifications made by the user. Inspect all visible components for signs of bending, cracking, distortion, wear, or malfunction. Yo-yo swivel connectors inspection. Check that swivel connectors are not loose. Check that swivel connectors swiveled as designed. Check sewing for pulled, loose, broken, or damaged stitches. Yo-yo tag and label inspection. Check the manufacturer's label is intact with serial number, manufacture date, limitations, and warnings are readable. Yo-yo snap hook inspection. Ensure snap hook's self-locking mechanism functions properly. Check for signs of hook or eye deterioration, twists, bends, or elongation. Ensure latch/keeper sits properly into the nose without binding and is not distorted or obstructed. Check for signs of deterioration or excessive wear. Check for any modifications made by the user. Check for signs of rust, corrosion, or pitting. Ensure that there are no missing parts. Then, check for rough or sharp edges. Then, test the hook locking mechanism that keeper opens and closes properly and self-locks firmly on the nose. Yo-yo cable inspection. Check for rough or sharp edges or any frays in the cable. Check for any rust or corrosion. And check for any bends in the cable. Any damage of this kind will put the SRL out of service immediately. On MSA branded SRLs or yo-yos, the serial number and date of manufacture is laser printed on the side. Remember that MSAs have 2 serial numbers, one on each yo-yo, so you'll need to document both. For most other brands, such as Faltech, the date of manufacture and the serial number will be written on a tag inside the shock pack. .3M solid nanolocks. Nanolocks were recalled due to faulty deceleration devices. The green check marks indicate they were properly repaired by the manufacturer. They must have these green check marks in order to be used. Without them, it is considered a failure. Shock packs. Shock packs, as shown in the pictures to the right, are an essential part of fall protection. Without them, you will not be safe in a fall. Missing shock packs are a critical automatic failure and must be replaced/destroyed as soon as possible. Without a shock pack, you will not stay connected to your anchor in the event of a fall. Next, we're going to check our SRLs, aka yo-yos. We're going to check for any signs of rust or corrosion in the metal, any signs that it's been dent. We're going to make sure that it locks properly. We're going to check to make sure that the swivel connectors swivel properly. We're going to be checking that the housing is intact. Sometimes the housing can start to break apart. So good here. We're going to make sure that the labels are readable and intact, that the shock pack is here. We're also going to be moving down and checking the hooks. Again, checking the hooks for any signs of rust, any sharp edges, any signs of corrosion or frays. We're also going to make sure that the hook locks properly, that the double action hook works. So like if I do this, it doesn't open, but if I activate the double action, it opens and snaps into place and locks. We're going to make sure that it fits flushly inside the nose here and that there's no gap in here or any of signs that it's sideways. Then we're going to check the label and the cable. So checking the cable, it's very important you have gloves on, and we're going to check for any signs of fraying or rust or bends in this wire. Slowly move it out about 50% of the way at first, and then we're going to see that it retracts properly. This one does. And then I'm going to pull it out 100% of the way, checking the entire cable. And then slowly release it back in to make sure it has a smooth retraction. Next, we're going to check to make sure that the brake mechanism works by grabbing it and giving it a sharp pull down. Okay, so that's good. We're also going to be checking the shock pack to make sure that the webbing inside of it is good. You can do that by looking under here. You need to leave it inside of this pack, but to make sure that it's still there. Also, the tag for the SRL is located underneath here, which can be removed that way. That's where you're going to find the information for the serial number and date of manufacture. We would then repeat this process all over again on the second SRL, and to make sure that that is also intact using the same methods we just described. What if somebody wants to bring their own personal gear, harness, or yo-yo to the job site? We allow personal gear so long as it passes inspection. Personal gear must be documented with a corresponding inspection tape like company-owned gear. If personal gear doesn't pass inspection, they must be provided with a suitable replacement immediately. Personal gear that doesn't pass inspection must never be brought to a job site again, and it is recommended that the owner destroys it immediately. After the successful completion of a harness and yo-yo inspection, you will begin to fill out the Fall Protection Inspection Information Sheet. You'll begin by writing your name, followed by your signature. Remember that signing this, you are certifying that you have inspected the equipment in accordance to the Brand Safeway Equipment Inspection Policy. Begin by writing the employee name in the first box, followed by the harness brand name. Then the harness serial number, which is found on the tag, and the date of manufacture, which is abbreviated by month and year. Then write the harness model, followed by the date of inspection. For this, you'll put the month, day, and year. Then the yo-yo inspection. You'll write the brand name, the serial number, and remember, MSA yo-yos have 2 serial numbers, the date of manufacture, the model, and the date of inspection. You'll then continue this process throughout the other members of your crew. The last step is to apply electrical tape to both yo-yo lanyards and harness D-ring. The electrical tape color will be designated by the quarter of the year as designated by Brand Safeway. Keep in mind, you will need to repeat this process every 3 months. This will now conclude your fall protection inspection. At this point, I'm going to flip the harness around. No, keep it going. I'll just edit it. What the heck is going on? All right, now that the harness is flipped around, we're going to check the other side.